Hey, welcome to our first recording of 2021. And I hope you like the new Patreon open. So thank you to all those Patreon members that support us each and every month. Patreon.com/crawlspace. Let's introduce the panel for the first show of 2021. We got Kelly. What's going on, Kelly?
Hey guys, I'm good. How are you guys doing? It's been a long 2021 so far.
Are you sure it's not December 35th or whatever it is? December
March
45th?
March 200th and
yeah. Oh, there you go. We even go back to March. My goodness.
Yeah.
Mike, what's going on?
Well, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm also in the process of trying to decode the first 2 episodes of WandaVision for an article I'm writing. What?
I said I can help. That's why my phone's blowing up. Everyone's asking me questions.
Kelly and I were just talking. I was only able to watch 1 episode tonight, so I'm really confused. How did she get stuck in the Dick Van Dyke universe? That's what my question is. But
who knows?
Dark Mark, you're raising your hand. Are you?
Yeah, okay? I was taking my earphones off. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
There you go. What's going on, Mark?
Not too much. Enjoying exam week.
Oh, how you have an exam week? You just went back to school.
That's how we do it around here in the South.
Hey kids, hope you enjoyed Christmas. Let's test you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. JR, Happy New Year, my ass, it looks like is what his graphic says.
Hi.
Hi to you too. Are you doing all right, JR?
Fine. I'm fine.
Oh, hopefully you talk more when we get to the issue where Norman is good. Never thought I'd say that to you. George and Ashley can't join us tonight. Hopefully they can join us in February. But we're going to review 4 issues of ASM. The numbering is so confusing.
Yeah.
ASM 54LR, ASM 55, ASM 56, ASM 57. If you go Legacy, what is that? Up to 859 or something?
Something like that. No, 860, 86.
Carry the 2.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay,
all I know is I got lured.
To count that late 80s Barbie, math is hard.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Yep.
So
Javi in the house. What's going on? Thank you, Javi. We'll have a good show.
So when it gets to like 900, are they going to count the lures or no?
Probably no lures.
They ought to. I think they'll probably have to go.
Alex says, "Howdy ho, gang! I've arrived." What's up, Alex? Bruce, Brad, where did you get that shirt? I got that shirt for Christmas. I got it from Kohl's. You can go online at Kohl's.com and pick it up. Hornacek says George is boycotting because of Carly's return. Hornacek is wondering if JR is still bald or did he grow his hair back since we checked in December. Let's take a look.
It's starting to come back.
Come back.
It's starting. I had to shave it to make sure that I didn't have any lice. So
Okay.
I mean that's probably why Brad keeps his head shaved or whatever, is because he's trying to keep those little critters at bay, since I hear they're all over in Missouri. Yeah. So
what you mean, the students?
Hornacek says count the LRs, the hoods, and the .1s, etc. Let's not.
No.
All right, Mike, we got 4 issues to get through in an hour and a half. Take me through this issue, please. The lure.
It's the lure.
The lure.
We're gonna lure you in here. So this issue is actually written by Nick Spencer and co-written by I believe Daniel Rosenberg. Vincetti. But it's also co-written by J.M. DeMatteis and Sal Buscema.
Okay.
Who didn't make the cover? What's up?
I don't know. Yeah,
they did a percent of this book.
Yeah,
I know. They literally did like 3 or 4 pages of this book, because specifically they reprinted Spectacular Spider-Man 200. The scene in which Harry, as the Green Goblin, kidnaps Mary Jane, takes her to the Brooklyn Bridge, or is it the George Washington Bridge? We don't really know because there's always confusion about it. But it's basically a place where Gwen Stacy died. Right. And of course, Mary Jane's thinking, "Oh, you're going to try to kill me." And of course, and Harry's like, "No, I'm not going to try to kill you. I'm just trying to do this because I'm trying to protect you from your from Peter Parker." Now, why are we getting this?
You must say husband.
No, well, yes. He said that's one of my points.
I mean,
not only is this reminding us that Harry still cares for Mary Jane,
right?
But it's also he literally does say he literally calls Peter Parker her husband in this.
Oh yeah, he does.
If you notice that,
I did not notice the Twin Towers in the back either when I first read it.
I know, yeah,
wow,
yeah. So they they literally just kind of just reposted the pages.
This is cut and paste, man.
But specifically, if you think about it, this is another little one more day hint because it kind of suggested Harry still remembers that, hey, this was the real continuity, if you will.
Right.
He doesn't say that to Peter when we come back to the present.
Right.
Nope.
But speaking of the present, that's when our not so amazing spider friends show up to the graveyard where Harry is based at, and who should arrive but the Sin Eater. And of course, Miles Morales is saying, "Oh, what's the big deal? This guy is just a nut in a ski mask brandishing a shotgun." But they don't realize that Sin Eater has basically roided himself up on Moreland's Shamba juice at this point because he's just because he's all big and buff now, and he can smell him through space and time with his Moreland powers now, and he just starts proceeding to throttle them because they are spider totems, and just and he just starts kicking their butts. And from in the midst of the fight, we cut back to the more important scenes of this book, which is the conversation between Norman Osborn and Mary Jane, because they're arriving to the graveyard as well, because that's where the Osborns have their family plot, apparently. Right. And so Norman, of course, he's still acting like he's basically as one of our Discord servers say, he's still acting as the clean goblin, if you will. It's like the Green Goblin.
Is there such a thing, JR?
I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah. But he said to Mary Jane, "Look, I thank you for doing this. I know you're just trying to help. I just want I'm really sorry for everything." And then Mary Jane's like, no. Look, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this to help. I'm doing this to help Harry, and I'm especially doing this to help Peter because of whatever thing you did. And second, I don't buy this whole that you just suddenly found Jesus now because you're Norman Osborn. You're the freaking Green Goblin. You're always up to something. I can just tell because as an actress, I know when people are hiding something and lying, and you are definitely hiding something. And I don't know what it is, but I'm not, I am not going, but I do not trust you, and I will never forgive you, even with this whole thing. And Norman's like, "Oh, okay, kind of being that way." Meanwhile, we go back to the fight between the not so amazing Spider Friends and the Sin Eater, who is now
called the Order, aren't they?
They're called
they're Order of Fries.
They're going to be called the Order. Eventually,
the Cold Order of Fries.
Yeah,
okay.
But
I called them the B team in my notes.
Yeah, well, they're more like the C team at some point because they're still led by Julia Carpenter, the worst psychic in the world, who finally admits that she is the worst psychic in the world because she begins to realize, even though she says she sees the future, she oftentimes doesn't really kind of misinterprets it, doesn't really know what it means until it's much too late, and then she realizes. But now she kind of realizes what she has to do. So she goes up to Sin Eater and quick, says,
"Thank you, Vinkman, for the super chat." He makes a note about in ASM 121 reprints, they've changed the dialogue from the George Washington Bridge to the Brooklyn Bridge because
it is the Brooklyn Bridge that is depicted.
There you go.
Right, yep.
So thanks, Vinkman, for the super chat too. Appreciate that.
In any case, Julia goes up to Sin Eater and says, "Stanley Carter, I'm the one you really want." And so Sin Eater goes, "Okay," and he takes his Linkara magic shotgun and just blasts her And of course, the way this works is that he absorbs her Madam Web powers. And at that moment, he can suddenly see the code, as it were. More specifically, preview pages from the next issue.
Yeah.
And
that cuts and pastes some issues from the present as we cut and pasted from the past. Okay.
Yeah. And as soon as he sees that, he goes, "My God, Kindred was right. I'm just a patsy." Everything I've done was a waste of time. I have no business being in this comic whatsoever. And so,
JR, he's learning from you. He's making stuff up.
Well, he's pretty much saying that. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And so in order to take himself out of the comic, and this is why we get a disclaimer in the back of this issue saying about, don't do this, kids. He takes his magic shotgun and blows his head off. And by doing that, the powers he's absorbed goes back, and Julia Carpenter comes back to life. And she's just like basically saying, "I can't believe that word." But, and after that happens, Kindred shows up and goes, "Well, that was a complete waste of time," and just uses the centipedes to basically capture all of them. And from there, we then end the issue with
it's almost like the reader. He's like, "Well, that was a waste of time, but we still got your money."
Yeah. And this issue ends with Mary Jane going off to go to Harry and everything. Go to Harry, see if she can talk him down. And after she leaves, there's a voice that talks to Norman. Says it's not one of the voices he often hears in his head, but it's the. But there's another voice that says, "So, are you sure sure this woman is up to it?" And then Norman goes, "Oh, absolutely," and everything. And then he's his partner, and we turn around and see that that Norman Osborn is working with Wilson Fisk.
Yeah,
aka the Kidman, and that's how the issue ends. My final grade. This is. Do I want to give this a C- or a D+? Yeah, I know. It's like I'm really torn. I'm kind of torn here.
I like what Ryan says, and Julie approves. She is the world's worst psychic again.
Yes, she does. Yeah. No, screw it. I'll give it a D+.
All right. Let's go around.
Yeah.
Let's go around the horn. Kelly, what's your grade?
C.
Yeah. Mark?
And I'm probably the nice one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mark, what's yours again?
C+.
C+. JR.
D+.
D+. I'll give it a C, only because of the Norman Mary Jane interactions. I mean, that might be worth $4.
That's my pro right there. And and it's also a pro because it is the only relevant scenes that have anything to do that actually tie in with what's going on in the main books.
Right.
You kind of have to read those scenes in order to figure out what's happening. So you kind of wonder, why did they put these scenes in this book instead of the main book? But
what's some other pros you got, Mike?
That's about it.
That's it. Kelly liked it with me on a C, and Mark had a C. But Matt has a question for Kelly about her T-shirt. It reminds me of the Clone Saga cover by the late Tom Lyle.
It's the old mobile game, Spider-Man Unlimited. It's just a tank top with all different Spider-Man. I bought it on accident because I thought Ben over here was Mayday.
Mayday, yeah.
Yeah, was Mayday. And it is not. It is Ben. That's okay, but
still a cool looking shirt though. I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a cool costume. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a good costume.
Mm-hmm.
So I said a pro. Mike said a pro. Kelly, what's your pro? You had a higher grade too.
Mary Jane. That's really it. She's there. That's the only reason why it's not a D for me.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine if it was just the side order fries group?
I don't know. I'm honestly, because Julia does admit that she's, nothing but the Long Island medium in a red Carmen Sandiego jacket. Yep. I actually might give it a D+ in that regard, just because she's admitting the truth for once.
Yeah, but she doesn't know anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, what's your pro? What do you got? You got anything besides Mary Jane and Norman interacting?
Yeah. I like the when Sin Eater realized that he was just a nobody in this whole thing. I think that's kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen with Kindred when he realizes that wherever the source of his power is just using him. And so I think he's going to end up being, much the same way.
Yeah. JR, you had Norman in it.
Yeah, it did.
Is that not a pro?
Well, the pro in the conversation is that Mary Jane, obviously knows what says what all of us know is that Norman himself is the monster. The Goblin is, or however you say it, that Norman is a skin or whatever, and the Goblin is the real, but Norman is the real monster. Whereas the other supervillains put on a costume, to give themselves the appearance of being evil and being monsters. Norman doesn't have to. He's always that way, and that was, I always like to see that because that tells me the writer understands the character of Norman Osborn. So, because I'm not so sure that everybody all these who have written him quite understand that. So,
yeah. Well, one of the things going on JR's point, I did like the fact that she Mary Jane also makes a distinction of what makes Norman Osborn different from the rest of Spider-Man's rogues gallery. In that, if you look at all the rogues, even the good ones like Doc Ock, they're always these failure. She calls them failure to launch types, who basically put on this suit and basically try to lash out at the world. Whereas Norman, he had, from the outside thing, he has everything, but he's still gonna, but he still feels like the need to, lash out and basically assert his control and on everything. And I think that's was a very good distinction, because that's when Mary Jane is, and the thing is, when Mary Jane is written correctly, that's always what stands out of her, is that she makes observations that sometimes even Peter kind of cannot see about others and everything, like almost like, so that was one appreciation. Now, if I was going to go into the cons of this.
Yeah, you can go cons. I don't think we have any more. I think we've gone around the bit for pros, and there wasn't much to gather up.
Mark, I know you liked Sin Eater's realization that he had no business being in the story, but that was the moment where it kind of like almost Spencer kind of telegraphed, like, well, if you're kind of admitting that Spencer's that Sin Eater's whole journey from this point was a waste of time, then why did you have him come back in this thing? Why did you have the whole order thing, where they
sell more books, Mike?
No, I would say it wasn't a waste of time. It's just he realized that what he wanted for him, it was a waste of time.
Oh, sure it was. Oh, yeah. I know. I understand that. But if you think about it, you didn't even have to have the senior at all in this thing at all.
You don't have to have the order of fries either.
No, because the whole thing. Because what happened? Because when during the end of that arc, where basically Senior absorbs Norman Osborn and Kindred shows up and then explodes and everything, there was no reason to keep the Senior around at that point. So this whole thing with him, with this whole thing going with him trying to track down Moreland and everything, and beating his guys, it was just it just kind of like, wow, there was no reason to have this whole side plot other than, like you say, Brad.
How do the Order of Fries recognize the power Sin Eaters is using as belonging to Moreland? Nothing about the powers is identifiable as Moreland centric.
Okay,
maybe he sniffed.
Well, it wasn't the whole team. It was just Jessica.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So figure out why Jessica can figure that out.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, because technically she's not technically not. Really
Ryan says because Julia remembers her coma during Spider-Verse. I don't know.
Well, no, Julia Carpenter could figure out. Jessica Drew technically shouldn't be a spider tone because she had different. She's got her spider powers completely different from everybody else.
Exactly. I'm like, someone figured that part out because it was just Jessica, not the whole team.
Any other cons, Mike? What else you got?
I didn't. Well, the art was a little bit got a little sketchy at times. Except of course when they have still panels like that. I mean, I did like the part where Sinner realizes, sees the code kind of thing. But I mean, it's not exactly. It does. The style doesn't fit and everything like this. It's just like compared to especially compared with the art we're going to get in the next 3 issues coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just a little.
Mark will take you to task on the art on the next few issues. I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure he will. But I'm sure he will.
JR, you gave a low grade to a book that had your favorite villain in it. How come? What's your cons?
Well, I mean, just because you put a strawberry on a pile of pig shit doesn't make it an appetizing meal. You know, I mean,
Wow.
I mean, really.
JR's cookbook is coming in 2022.
But I tell you, well, one, everybody, I'm going to give a con.
Okay.
Well, one beyond the spider losers not belonging, but that's an old con. I'm going to give a con to Nick Lowe's insulting suicide disclaimer. That is idiotic. Well, it's stupid because
Why?
for one, the bad guy does it. It's like he might as well have a disclaimer that says, kids, don't kill. Kids, don't steal. Kids, don't fart in crowded elevators. That's wrong. You know, I mean, come
that
on.
should be in the comic. Personally, that should always be a warning.
Why do we got to have this?
Because
bad
of
guys-
Craven.
Bad
Well,
guys,
technically-
bad guys do stupid things.
Well,
That's
technically,
why they're bad guys.
Well, technically, JR, he's not the only one that does this because Julia Carpenter technically, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think, yeah. So that I mean that I can kind of see why
she
you have to
ain't
put a disclaimer in there.
you
but-
know,
But
come on, she ain't dead. There's no.
true.
Come on, you
but even
guys.
so-
Yeah, because
Come on,
JR's
no,
metaphor is
there's no
never.
reason for this. There's no reason. This is. I don't know what this is. You know, this is pandering.
Well, actually, speaking to pandering, did they make any AdSense off of using it for, you know how like there's that Buffy episode where they had to write a script to get it approved so they could get funding for it about the dangers of drinking?
Oh,
I-
yeah.
So
I
was
didn't
this like that? Was basically they just needed money to fund, fund Marvel, so that's why they threw it in there. I mean, we don't know. I don't know.
If I was to play Mephisto's advocate, I would say that he did that just because he thought it would be a nice thing to do in the letters pages. I don't think he had any alternative motives. If I was the editor and I needed to pad out because nobody's writing letters anymore except Peter, I need to put something in the letter. It's not JR. It's better safe
patronizing.
than sorry. I
No,
mean, if it does
it's-
save one person from committing suicide,
But
It's
it's,
worth it.
not. It's not.
I agree. It probably won't, but if it
It-
saved
it-
one, why not?
It's one of it's almost it's self-indulgent and it's arrogant. You know
Yeah, I would
that
agree.
you know kids, you have to have me to tell you to not
Well,
set forest fires. You have to
don't
have me
forget-
to tell you not
Don't
to
forget
commit
though, there's
suicide.
also potential legal thing too, is because they don't
Yeah.
want to go into because if
Oh.
they don't want to get into any
I haven't-
kind of.
I haven't bought
Yeah.
Craven's Last Hunt in a reprint in a long time. Does it have a warning label?
I don't know if it does. That's a good question.
I
That
I
should
wouldn't
be
be
a good- that's a-
surprised, but when it
I
first
wouldn't either.
came out, didn't they have all kinds of issues? Isn't that the reason why they lost their Walmart spot?
I think I have heard that. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Hornacek says instead of the anti-suicide message, the comic could have used the page to print 3 more letters from Chi-Town. Yeah, why not? We don't indulge the ego, right, Mark?
Yeah, Hornacek. Yeah, you're banned from the comment section.
Yeah, exactly. Are we ready to move on from that? In the long
I
run,
mean,
could we have just understood the story without that chapter? If
Yeah.
it wasn't
Pretty
even a chapter.
Pretty much. I mean, you have, but like I said, you have to take the Norman and Mary Jane
Yeah.
stuff out
Yeah.
of this because it directly ties into what happens later on. I mean, it's just because it's an important point.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So we've now got Kelly reviewing one of the prettiest looking covers.
I know.
This
That
thing
is an awesome cover.
beautiful. And they've even come out with a Carnage one. They've come out with a variant red one. They've inverted it. And I heard that the reprint had more copies sold than the first one. All of that
Yes,
cover.
all because
Man.
of this cover.
Yeah,
But
beautiful.
yes, exactly. So Spencer, Cleason, and Delegado. The real quick run through is Kindred's kidnapped. I wrote the B team, but now I'm calling them O-Fries.
Oh, fries.
So Kindred has kidnapped the O-Fries. Basically got everybody sitting really weirdly for a dinner party. Like no one looks comfortable, especially not Gwen.
There's no padding on the seats. I mean,
no, they're sitting really weird. It's
appetizers.
awkward. Yeah, I don't really understand it. But Harry really, really loves his dinner parties, guys. So he has to have this one again. And Harry really isn't impressed with this other Gwen because she's pretty much over it, and she basically just says, "All right, just kill us now. Like, why do you keep talking? If you're gonna kill us, just do it." Which, same, Gwen. I feel this. So good on her. But Mary Jane then shows up, walking through the graveyard. MJ doesn't mince words, cuts to the chase. She knows Kindred's Harry. Harry invites MJ to the dinner party. Peter then punches him in the face. They fight, like always. I feel like this is always their dinner parties, too.
That always ends into the fight. Yeah.
Goblins and dinner parties, you just do not go well.
No.
So anyway, Kindred gets the betterment of him, and MJ stops him from killing Peter again by agreeing to do the dinner. So they sit down. Harry's having the time of his life, going through his college years. Like, that's the only thing he's got going for him. And how his best friend stole his girl after his dad had some relations with his best friend's girl.
The other girl.
And anyway, so they're all having that, and Harry's whining. Peter gets mad. Peter starts, calling it out, which makes Harry mad. And then there's Norman is storming in, very clearly getting ready to be Green Goblin, but we're not sure quite why, because last time, is he evil? Is he good? We don't know. So he's coming in for the hell of it. Kindred decides he's ready just to kill everybody, get it over with. Peter begs him to stop. Peter really doesn't understand why Harry is this way, doesn't understand what made him this way. And Kindred then gets mad because Peter made him this way, and Peter doesn't know. And MJ is trying to tell him that, Peter obviously doesn't know. He's willing to sacrifice himself to save everybody. So, like, let's just end this now and kill MJ. Like, just kill me, and, let's be done with this, because we know that that's going to hurt Peter more. And she almost gets Kindred Harry to do it before Norman comes in and creates a very big fight. And we think he's going to wind up killing MJ with a pumpkin bomb, but it's really a flash of something else, and then total darkness. And that is where we end. So there's really not a whole lot that goes on in this issue, but that's your conclusion. Yeah.
So what's your grade?
I gave it a C-, and that's only because I at least enjoy it as a whole, but it's so bloated at this point that I wanted a bang. Like, I pun intended, I wanted a bigger bang, and you don't get it. You get a flash bomb.
Yeah. We got what'd you say? C-? C-. Mike, what's your grade?
C+.
C+. Mark?
A.
JR?
C+.
A- out of me. I like
this. Will be interesting.
Yeah, this ought to be good. So, Kelly, prose. What's your prose out of it?
The coloring is nice, and of course, I really enjoy the reminiscing with Harry and Peter and MJ, and kind of going back over Harry's tortured soul. But to me, it was just like a little bit too little, too late. Because, like I said, the last half of the story just is so kind of convoluted. Like, it could have been, if there was a better editor, it could have been streamlined a little bit more, I think, and had a greater impact at the end.
Mark, you and I had high grades for it. What's your biggest pros?
Well, it's the exact opposite of Kelly here. I thought the ending was just like, wow. I mean, we had Mary Jane dead. We had darkness coming all over the place where we didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah.
I really like trying to speculate on what was going on. You know, Spencer's giving me just enough, but he's not giving me too much. And so I'm looking at, what all's happening here. You know,
it was a good cliffhanger. It really wanted you to read the next one.
Oh,
That's true. That is true. I
mean,
but at the same time, though, it's supposed to be like, even though it's supposed to be the conclusion, I will say though that I mean, this was mainly this was a frustrating issue to read.
Yeah.
And I think for that read, but at the same time, it's like, admittedly, you want to read the next one. I also
is this the last part of Last Rites?
Yeah. Last Remains. That's
Last Remains.
But then we get into a post-mortem thing. But one of the things I liked about this was when Harry's just going off about Peter, and he not only brings up Mary Jane, like, you stole MJ from me, but then he brings up that question about should Peter have exposed Norman Osborn as a Green Goblin from the beginning?
Yeah.
And it was like, and you're thinking, oh, that's actually a good point. But then you realize, wait, there was a guy named Chip Zdarsky who addressed this twice. First was in Spectacular Spider-Man and also in Spider-Man Life Story, in which he pointed out that even if Peter did turn Norman Osborn in, Norman would have still found ways to screw Peter over, because Norman Osborn is just a manipulative SOB, as JR says. And so I do like the fact that when he mentions that Peter just kind of calls that Perry out and says, no, that's a bunch of crap. This is something else. And, so he's at least is trying to acknowledge, so you can kind of see a little bit that Peter's, especially when you get into later issues, where Peter's, starts to crack here at this point, I think. And I think it's so, I mean, it's an I mean, if you really like the sort of the psychological, back and forth here, then this is definitely, it definitely has plenty of that. Probably some people would think too much, but
I mean, see, this is my thing on it, because thinking back on what Dark Mark said, like, yeah, I think if you believed MJ was dead, then you were more compelled. But I kind of, especially because she had the earpiece and stuff, and then we don't think about this entire issue about her having the earpiece. But like when I went to reread it, it's like, okay, yeah, she's got it in her ear the entire time.
Yeah.
And so it's very clear that she's saying, hey, don't count me out just yet, Tiger, at the end. So like, I knew she wasn't going to die. And so that's kind of a large part of it. It's like, there's more layers to the story, and the story is not over. And I think the thing is I just wanted a good little bow before we jumped off to the next chapter. Cause I knew it wasn't going to be over, but
oh, right. Yeah.
at least
Kelly, I think that's the big thing right there. The bow, the editor, I'm assuming, is the one who did we're going to end it here. Last Remains ends here. And it gives that whole, it doesn't. I mean, it's smack dab in the middle of the story.
It's not a complete story.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's what really messed a lot of people's enjoyment of the story up. We were expecting some sort of conclusion, even if Kendrick goes on, and then we didn't get it. And I think that threw a lot of people off of what really should have been an enjoyable story.
Right.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I understand it completely. Yeah.
JR, what'd you like about it?
Well, I did like I like Peter putting his fist through Kindred's face. I kind of like that.
And his web too. We did that
always,
too.
Yeah, always like that kind of stuff. I like the callbacks to Amazing 96 to 98, even though one of them was misidentified as Amazing 40.
Well, the editor got that wrong. Yeah,
a mistake that shouldn't have been made. But anyway, And to be honest, well, actually, both one of my pros and cons was Norman and Harry about to take each other on, which we've never seen before, and we still haven't. So it was like, oh boy, and then, oh man. So
they've argued, but they've never fought. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they've never gone mano-a-mano at each other.
Yeah,
no, in American Son,
American Son. Yeah,
but that sucked. I mean. That was
Robert
because Harry had no business beating Norman in that issue, because there's no way he should have been. That's another thing.
What about Roderick Kingsley and Norman have never gone toe to toe either? Why haven't we seen these fights?
technically they had though. They did that in that sequel to Hobgoblin Lives, didn't they?
No, they took a few girly slaps at each other for a few panels. But no, I mean, no, you want to see a knockdown drag out. I mean, you don't want to see it as kind of an offhand minor event or whatever. I mean, you want to see a throwdown. And no, we're not, I mean, Brad raises a good question. Why don't we get these crowd pleasing throwdowns? It's because the writers are too self-indulgent to, to give it to us. They're more interested in saying something than they are in just putting all the cards on the table and said, "Here, kids, have fun." So
Gary in the Frozen is wondering why Spencer's just dancing around one more day. Why didn't he just come out and just do something with it?
And that is actually leading to one of my big cons about this thing and the event so far.
Are we
actually.
good
That's
with pros,
the big
Kelly,
sin.
and everybody? Are we good with pros? Should
Yeah.
we move on to cons? Okay. Mike, what's your big con?
See, the thing is, the way I kind of analogize this in the Discord channel is that it's like we had a big puzzle box. We kind of have an impression of what the complete puzzle is going to be, but when we open the box, we find several pieces of the thing missing.
Yeah.
Because we know this is all connected with One More Day. I think even I'm going to admit that now, even though now with my whole thing. But the problem is, and we know that what Harry became this way because of One More Day, but we don't know how. There's a bunch of missing stuff here that we still have no answers for, despite the fact that we've had 2 years of buildup of this.
Yes.
And it's getting to a point where we kind of know. So we know what the answer to all of this is, but we don't know we don't have any of the links. It's kind of like what happened with Lost. It's like, oh, this is a very intriguing mystery and everything. And then J.J. Abrams got into the whole mystery box BS, where we basically piled mystery after mystery after mystery on this thing. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
So what you're saying is that this is the beginning of season 3 of Lost.
pretty
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. I am.
Who's the cloud
Yeah.
monster?
Yeah, who's the dog monster at this point? Why is there a hat?
Who's Sawyer? Where'd the damn dog go? Where'd the kid go? Yeah, where'd Mary Jane's kid go?
Where'd both of them go?
Oh,
3 of them.
Kelly, what's your cons, by the way? Well, let's hear yours.
I mean, well, I kind of already explained both my pros and cons. It's, I agree with you guys. Like, there was a lot, I think, of potential and ability for a really great issue, but it was like, because it's not really the end, yet it kept being said that it's going to be the end, it just kind of laid flat for me at the very end. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I know we're going into this next chapter, but how can I be excited when this is kind of how we're ending the first chapter? And that's really my biggest con on it, is just, it's almost like it was begging you to have this payoff, and then it just kind of,
it's like a fart. It's like a fart in an elevator, like to bring it all home.
Yeah, sure. There we go.
That's the weirdest segue.
Is anybody going to say anything though about Mary Jane's, visiting the graveyard wardrobe, as well as the way she's walking? I mean, do people really walk like that when they're not on a runway or something?
Only in
if you
Beverly's
look at it,
dreams.
when I saw it, I thought two things. One, she looks like her first appearance with the skirt, and then she's wearing Gwen Stacy's coat.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So, what do you guys think on that?
it's
I
very
kinda wondered
80s.
It's very what?
80s on purpose, I think.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's the 80s are great. That was crap.
I was kind of wondering, wasn't she wearing pants earlier?
Yes.
So
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Face of Tiger was jeans, wasn't it?
Yes.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's very much a 60s look, the skirt.
Mhm.
Mm.
And the coat is very Gwen Stacy. So I is that even Mary Jane? She survived the pumpkin bomb.
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing. We also get a nice little homage here. I mean, because I guess Harry's also a fan of Game of Thrones, because as Hornacek pointed out, Peter's looks like she's sitting on the Iron Throne, but it's more like a bone throne kind of thing, because it's like all skeletons and stuff.
Weird. The bone throne.
Well, too, the way he had, like, the way Gwen was drawn on her chair was also very weird, and it didn't make sense, because it was like, I guess the bones are supposed to be like holding her down, but it just really looked uncomfortable. I'm not like, the fights in the movement in the fighting
Yeah.
panels were really beautiful,
Mhm.
but these like kind of weird stationary moments
Yeah.
are very awkward.
Yeah. In terms of Gleason's really I mean, in terms of like simulating movement and everything, he does it really well here and stuff. I mean, but yeah, it's just
How about the fact that she's wearing Norman's colors?
Yeah.
That's another tip off. That's another tip off of what's going on there too. Yeah. That's a good catch.
Matthew wants to know if Kelly liked the Mary Jane series. Yeah, she did.
I did, except
the first half.
Yeah. I didn't like the last issue before it got canceled. I actually wrote a review on the site that you can see where I was very confused by what was going on in chapter 6.
So, any other thoughts on this issue before we proceed to our third of 4 issues we're talking on tonight? Anybody else want to talk about anything? All right, JR, you've waited 50 plus years to have a nice Norman. Listen to the alliteration. Nice Norman. Does that just roll off the tongue or what? No?
Clean Goblin was
Clean Goblin. No, there's nothing clean about Norman. We saw what he did in the past. All right, let's.
Oh man.
JR, take me through Norman Osborn and Wilson Fisk ripping up the mask of Spider-Man.
Okay. All right. The issue opens with a flashback with our hero, Norman Osborn, plotting with the Kingpin. Because as you know, the Kingpin is now the mayor of New York, and he appointed Norman as the director of Arkham Ravencroft to capture Kindred. Because Norman Osborn knows what the Kingpin wants Kindred for, and can use the Kingpin's resources to help him get what he wants. So Norman tells him, I have the perfect trap, but I need something to trap him with, and I know that you have the means. Yes, the Kingpin says I can't do Roscoe Lee Brown because I know about a plot device from a horrible, horrible, blasphemous Nick Spencer miniseries that he has yet to apologize for and will never be forgiven for. In which New York City was trapped inside the Dark Force dimension, and we can use the spot for similar means. Norman says, let's go for it, pal. But remember, I get him first. Well, the scene shifts to the previous issues of It in the Graveyard, where the spot is triggered to create the force field, and then we go back to Ravencroft in the present, where Norman is talking to some weirdo woman with tats, piercings, poor fashion sense, and a dreadful haircut, and we learn that while Kindred can hear and communicate while he's within the dark bubble, he's just choosing not to. So the Kingpin shows up, gloating about capturing Kindred, and is preparing to torture him when Osborn steps in and says, wait, we had a deal, and men of honor such as ourselves always keep our promises. And the Kingpin goes, do you think I'm as stupid as Spider-Man, who you tried to screw after you got him to break you out of prison during Marvel Knight's Spider-Man? Or as stupid as Spider-Man when he gave a clean slate to Dr. Octopus and Amazing Spider-Man 800, despite all the times Doc's tried to kill millions of people? Do you think I'm that kind of stupid? And Norman says, well, no, but you know me. But you can't hurt him like I can hurt him. Give him to me. And by the time I'm done, he'll be a quivering, slobbering blob of sickly, mewling, girly protoplasm that he'll put on
Hold on a second. Let me get
and let you call him Shirley.
There. We'll bow to your goblinness. Go.
So anyway, the Kingpin says, oh, well, okay, as he narrows his eyes and he looks at Norman and he says he agrees, but he says, don't blank this up. So Norman tries to be nice. He tries to tell the scientist, will you please leave? I need some private time with the ghoul here. And they just go all still doing their sciencing and stuff. And Norman says, please, I beseech you to allow me to have some private time with this demonic entity. And they continue to ignore him. So Norman finally loses it and talks in his outside voice and goes, I said leave! Now, I will do a dramatic reading
Oh
of
my.
the following page.
Okay.
Let me get into character
Oh,
here.
Yep. I knew he was going to do this.
Our audio listeners, JR is just looking left and right and up and down.
Harry.
JR looks slightly confused.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be here all week.
Bravo.
Tip your waitress. Try the meal.
I mean,
Okay.
I could have given you some eye drops for some tears if you
Mhm.
needed them.
So anyway, that took a lot out of me, folks. So let me, that took about as much out of me as it took Spencer to actually write it. So, anyway, so basically, it comes down to Norman saying, Harry, I didn't want to do this, but I had to. I don't want them to hurt you. Anyway, so we flash back again to the mausoleum when Norman throws a pumpkin bomb that seems to kill Mary Jane. But, it turns out that's just a flash grenade because, as we all know, it was to create a little drama. And we know that Norman would never, he's too good-hearted to hurt Mary Jane. So, but although he does say, I'm coming, Mary Jane, but I'm going to be a little late because I just tripped over Mark Bagley's grave back there. So while Norman and Kindred are fighting, then the whole mausoleum starts coming down around them.
God,
and Mary Jane, against her better judgment, escorts the spider losers out so that they will be assured to return to further clog the plot arteries in the future. Anyway, back to Norman and Kindred. I know my son is in there somewhere. And if you had killed those innocent people, it would have driven you further into the darkness. I know, because I've been there. But you, through the guy who had an entire boring-ass comic devoted to him and his snake-handling father that no one gave a rat's ass about, through him, you have given me this gift, the ability to see you. I should bring Spencer down for this so that we can, I can really do, have him to play off of. But he probably said, "No, you're crazy, Dad." But you've given me a wonderful gift to see you through the eyes of a loving father. And I know that's what you wanted to, because everybody got their original sins back except me. So, all right, we get 3 boring ass pages of Overdrive making move on Carter Cooper. Who gives a shit? All right. And
That's the best part of the comic.
Then a couple of pages at Feast headquarters where Aunt May and Randy Robertson are stocking shelves. Martin Lee crawls to the front door all disheveled, saying, "Help me, he's going to find me." Fine. Cure Aunt May of cancer and be done with it, all right? All right, just like you cured Eddie Brock, Is that how we're going to do this? Is that how we're going to go with the cancer? Anyway, back to Ravencroft. Norman continues pleading with Harry. Think of what we can do.
You go like 100 miles an hour over all the other stuff. Anyway, back to Norman.
Back to Ravencroft. Norman, says, "Think of what we can do together." No, wait a minute. Wrong movie. We need, help me redeem. We can work together. Help me redeem the Osborn name. And then we flash back to the mausoleum where Kindred goes through his motives. I brought you here together because I want to make Peter realize that his ego and sanctimoniousness has, creates all these problems. And I wanted to take the goblin from you because that was the only way you could feel pain, and any regret for what you've done. But you're still not getting the message. So I'm just going to have to set another plot device in motion. But I won't tell you about it for about another 30 days. Anyway, all right. So the Secret Empire plot device happens. All right. They trap Kindred. And Kingpin takes him away to Ravencroft. And while we're back to Norman talking to Harry, and then Spider-Man ruins this family moment, and says, "You and me, Norman, we need to talk. To be continued."
You mean Spider-Man just finally showed up?
Well, you didn't care about him anyway. This was about our hero, Norman Osborn.
Oh, my God. All right. So, by the way, when you were doing this, ES in the comments said you missed your calling. It should have been theater.
Absolutely.
Somebody also said the only way you can do these reviews is when Josh said you got to snort Coke in order to properly get in the character. Good grief. JR would die.
Start
JR,
Mount-
what's
start
your
Mount
grade,
Ruby.
sir? It seemed like you liked the parts with Norman.
I'm kind of confused. I'm a little conflicted. Well,
Okay.
one, because I don't know if that's really Norman. Because the hair's
Why?
not right. The hair's too normal.
Oh, that's,
You know,
that's just
I messed
Bagley.
up the hair.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bumpy enough. It's not cornrowy enough. It's not red enough. You know,
Well,
it's
that's
not.
how you know that. That's how you know he's good because he doesn't have the full cornrows
Oh.
going on.
Oh, yeah. Maybe
Oh, yeah. The hair is off, isn't it? I just
Maybe
noticed
there's
that.
maybe there's a, oh my God, Vinkman. Vinkman.
I know, Vinkman.
Oh,
Oh, wow. Vinkman.
oh.
Something for JR's award-winning performance. Super
Oh.
chat. Thank you, Vinkman.
Yeah, thank you.
I kind of have to give this. I can't give it an A. I give it a B. I give it a B. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's go around the horns. Kelly, what's your grade?
B minus.
Yeah. Mike,
Yeah, about a B. B's fine. B's
Mark.
A minus.
What do I want to give it? It's not an A. I liked the last issue much more because it had Spider-Man in the Amazing
Mhm.
Spider-Man comic, not
Mhm.
the amazing Norman Osborn book. But I liked Norman. B, almost B minus out of me. So JR, what'd you like besides your performance? I love the head thing. You paid an extra. Some of your money went to one full page of up, down, over, left, right.
Mhm.
I mean, Stan Lee would have dialogued all those, wouldn't he?
Well, you know, in a way, I'm somewhat being unfair because comics is a visual medium,
Yeah.
and a good writer can, you know, use that to. I mean, and theoretically, this is expressing Norman getting himself in character.
Yep.
You know, we're kind of like, because I'm not, I mean, and this actually shows what a really poor prognosticator I am. Because I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't bet one way or the other if Norman is really good or not. You know,
Mhm.
because you never know with Norman. And it's
Mhm.
almost like, you know, the first panel, you know, is him, you know, that's Norman. And it's like, oh, okay, I got to put my good face on. Got to put my oh, I'm so sad face on. Okay. Okay. Do I have it now? No. I don't have it now.
He's
Do I
getting
have it
into
now?
character. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, but but it kind of falls flat because we're just getting way too much of that, you know, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Wasn't the previous issue just the opening page is just all black with like 3 words on it, like text?
Yep.
That just
One
seems
of
like a waste of money and padding, and I just don't like it.
And we're getting multiple pages of reprints of Spectacular
Yeah.
Spider-Man 200, which I don't know that we need all. Frankly, I would have actually liked to seen a new. If we were going to redo it, I would have liked to seen the artist do a new take on it or something.
What they
I
used to do. I
You know,
mean, we saw Romita's take on Ditko's Origins. They used to have the artist redraw the
Mhm.
section we're talking about instead of reprinting
Yeah.
it.
But I guess my big pro would be that we're actually having somebody else have a conversation besides Peter and Kindred. That somebody else is actually talking.
Mhm.
And I think deep down there is some of it, even if Norman's faking. Deep down, I think part of him there is a very, 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 very small part of him that feels this way. But
Wow. Thank you again, Vinkman.
Thank you.
I'm glad
Mhm.
MJ's getting a pumpkin bomb in the belly turned out to be a fake. Because
Yeah.
if that had been real, I probably would have rage quit the title for good if I hadn't already quit last year.
See, the thing is, that's one of the reasons why I did like this issue is because we got a bunch of nice little twists here. I mean, aside
Yeah.
from the MJ twist, the Norman twist, it was sort of that double twist there.
Yeah.
Because I know after the past three issues, I was like, wait a minute. So Norman basically somehow faked being good, and then so it's like, oh no, maybe he is good. And so I kind of liked that this idea that even when he's supposedly a good guy, he's still kind of manipulative. Which is
He
interesting.
Do you like that, JR? What's your thoughts on nice Norman? I mean, even
is
when
no
he's
nice
nice, he
Norman.
can't really be nice.
there is no nice Norman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is no nice Norman. There may be a
Yeah.
Norman Osborn that doesn't. There may be a Norman Osborn that doesn't go out and kill people for grins
Mm-hmm.
but there's no nice Norman Osborn.
Mhm.
You know,
There's
I always
no redeeming of the soul.
no, he's not. He's an evil person, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and it'll break my heart when it becomes evil again. But you know, he would have been he would have been, even if his wife. I think, well, like one of the I've always wondered, you know, like if his wife had lived, what kind of person he would be. You know, he wouldn't be a good person. He would just kind of be a different kind of evil person. But part of me always likes the idea that Emily was really Lady Macbeth. You know, we always see her, you know, like, oh, she was this angel, you know, and she died, and Norman was, I just wonder if maybe he would have been worse if she had lived. If so, but
didn't she sort of come back? Like whatever.
we don't.
Yeah.
That kind of
now that was Slot.
Kindred, by the way.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah. Okay.
But the thing is, what you're saying, JR, about the idea that Norman is still kind of a bad person. But I would argue that at this point, even if he's fake or not, he does feel guilt in this moment, in a sense,
Yes.
which is something, that's new. Yeah, because he is kind of, because I mean, it does harken back, I think, to maybe like earlier times where Norman was, especially during those days where we thought Harry was when Harry was supposedly dead for good, and so he had that kind of that guilt-ridden thing, like he wanted revenge against what happened to his son, and so he kind of felt, you know, so there is some of that in the surface here. What he's saying, here is that. So I think there is some sincerity here in what he's saying to Harry. But
and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because that reminded me of the end of Amazing 98 when Spider-Man forced Norman to see Harry, you know, and, you know, seeing his son just, I mean, again, you know, being a father, you know, I mean, just seeing his son on death's door like that broke him. You know, broke the Green Goblin. I mean, it was enough it was a kind of like the Martha, you know, it was Norman's Martha moment that broke through his psychosis. So yeah, you're right. There is some sincere emotion, some sincere feeling, but
I've lost track where we are. Are we on pros or cons? What happened?
That we're on JR rant. We're on JR.
We're on JR. Well, let's here's some pros. Who had the highest grade? Okay, hit Mark. What happened? We talked about.
There was that one section where, as the dark force is closing in on them, he says something about, you guys need to understand, you know, your sins. You need to remember what you did. But, you know, that's leaving Norman also like, what, I don't know what, you know, I know I was a bad dad, but I know that. So what is it that I don't know? And so some of the best Spider-Man commentary is on our own front page, and it's, I wish it was me, but it's the readers there. They're putting in all kinds of stuff. What could it be? I don't think the whole deal with the devil is Peter's sin that he can't remember. I think there's something else going on. I think the deal with the devil plays into this, but I don't think it's the end all be all thing. The thing that, you know, Doc Folsom on our page, he said, one of the things that they both can't seem to remember is the killing of Baby May. You know, and that the only thing we couldn't do is figure out how does that apply to Harry. You know, why is Harry? You know, why is that his breaking point? But it might not even need to be his breaking point. It might just be that you know, Harry just, you know, is wanting them to all pay for everything, and this is one thing that they both don't remember because of that deal with the devil.
Maybe because Harry has so many kids, he thinks the others should be bothered.
Yeah, he can't remember all of them.
Mary Jane and Peter, can't you remember the one you guys had? I mean, so if I've read also that people are confused which Harry this is. Is this Harry Lyman or is this This is Harry Osborn. Harry Lyman we haven't seen yet in Spencer's Run. Right.
Well, actually, I do think that. I kept saying that we're assisting. They're one of the same. I mean, and I think what happened next issue kind of falls into it. I think what I could probably explain at some point. It's kind of complicated, but but
we had a question from Matthew. What wants to know what JR thinks of Emily Osborn's return.
I'm not convinced. If I were the writer, I would say, Norman cloned her. That's what it was. And I would
fair.
forget it.
That's,
I would forget it. That's a
the
bad.
be all and end all of Spider-Man. I was a clone.
Just
Forget
could
about
be
it.
a Harry
yeah.
Lyman's demonic handler coming back just to make sure he stays on track.
The mother handler.
Yeah,
That was such a slot thing. Oh my Lord! You know, I mean,
Mhm.
it was.
throwing something away just for a shock moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, Adam says we're at the JR riffing section of the show. It's like free-form jazz when he talks about goblins. Matt, feel free. You can ask us a question. But except for JR, he's not asking it to you, JR, so you're out. Adam says Harry has a bunch of baby mamas.
Just two.
Who's his other mama?
Lily Hollister.
Yeah.
Oh,
Liz,
yeah. He's got Liz and Lily Hollister. Yeah.
Yeah, he likes the L's.
Just like Superman.
There you go. Thoughts on the Child Within story? One of my favorites from James DeMatteis, right? And Sal Buscema. JR, you like that one? Oh, down. Why?
Oh, that's where the spider history of its own. I don't want to get into it. We've only got 30 minutes before Facebook.
30 minutes.
throws us
Okay.
off.
True.
Any other thoughts on this issue? Should we go on and then take questions from everybody at the end? All right, Mark, you ready?
I'm ready.
This one came out last Wednesday. ASM 57, which is Legacy. What does it say there? 858. All right, take me through it.
Kindred's narrating and lets us know that it is all over. Finally, all these issues, it's all over, and tells Peter to enjoy his happy ending, which he attempts to do by sharing an intimate moment. Intimate's the wrong word. He's in the graveyard. By sharing a touching moment with MJ. At which point, the Order of the Web shows up and gets all in Peter's face about him owing them an explanation for what was going on, since they had to stop what they were doing in their own comic books and come and butt in uninvited. And he just kind of hems and haws. MJ tells them to all go pound sand. Now we fast forward to where last issue left off, and Peter gets all in Norman's personal space and tells him in no uncertain terms that the Osborns are losers. They always have been, always will be, and he's tired of being saddled with them all. Norman tries to guilt Peter into being into helping Harry, and Pete's response is that he feels Harry should just be left to rot. And when Norman tries to stop Pete by putting his hand on his arm, Pete goes all bonesaw in his rear and leaves Norman in a bloody mess on the floor.
Bonesaw. Nice.
This makes Kindred smile. And this pathetic loser tries to make us believe with his little captions that he's right where he wanted to be all along, trapped in a dark force box. Meanwhile, Carly finds herself alone in the morgue with Kindred's bevy of bodies, and as a personal favor to MJ, when she discovers that there are 11 bodies instead of the 10 that should be there. And then she opens up the little sheet. She gets super shocked, and she immediately thinks that she has to call MJ. She's very frantic to get to MJ, but before she can get through to MJ, since MJ cannot be bothered to pick up the phone, a giant centipede rises up, and it does
hopefully kills
something.
Carly.
Well, we have no idea, because with
That's
Bagley's art, it just rises up and Carly drops her phone. That's all we know that happens. It could just be she's scared of bugs. We don't know. We had no clue what happened. He could have gone through her. It could have. We don't know. Anyway, and then Pete comes home to MJ, and in a nice little bookend to the opening narration, confirms that this is far from over.
Okay.
A. This is an A. Great.
Hey. Oof.
Mm.
Okay. JR?
I give it a B.
Mike?
About the same.
Kelly?
B.
You want to give it an A, Brad? You know you do.
I don't. The quality for me is going down since that 55 issue.
No, it's just the art quality is going down. The story's just
No, I still like Bagley. I don't think the inker is being, or the colors is being very nice to Bagley on these two
Yeah.
issues. I got to go C+. I read it instantly, thought nothing happened, and what advanced in this issue? Not a damn thing, except Carly was taken out.
The Carly thing, yeah, which goes into a whole bunch of theories on there, which I think is, which.
Okay, let's go around. Who's in the morgue? Mark, who's the extra body? What's your opinion?
It is Harry Lyman.
Okay,
in there.
Kelly's who's in the morgue?
I believe it is a Harry. I just don't know which one.
What if it's a baby? What if it's May?
Nope.
Why?
No.
Why would it be like it was a grown adult? Like a baby would be very tiny.
Do we know it's? Did Bagley's
No,
already
we don't
show
really
how
get
big-
to
No, we don't
see.
know. No.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't tell how big it is. I don't know.
It looked like it was uniform with the rest of the bodies.
Oh yeah, that's true. Mike, who's in the body bag? Or in
It
the
is
morgue?
the original. It is the original Harry Osborn who died in Spectacular Spider-Man 200.
Well,
The
what
Harry
happened-
Osborn we've seen has basically been resurrected by, I'm thinking, Mephisto, who, without any memories of that, he was brought back as kind of a sleeper agent to kind of keep Mary Jane and Peter apart. But when he saw his own body, which I'm sure he investigated because, after all, his mother supposedly come back, so he goes there. Once he saw that body, that's when it created a trigger, and that's how he became Kindred.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jr. Who's in the morgue?
I like Mike's theory.
Yeah. You think
I
it's
like
not Harry Osborn, huh?
It's a Harry something.
Yep.
Mario
Now-
thinks it's Peter. It could be Peter. Why not? Peter died how many times in the previous issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hornacek says the 11th body is Ethan from Lost. I don't even know who Ethan was, and I watched every episode of Lost.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mario wants to know, why would Carly call MJ if it was Harry? Why not call
Because
Liz?
Harry is Carly's whole connection to this whole
Mhm.
book.
Oh, yeah.
So if she sees Harry there, and we can assume she knows Kindred is Harry. I mean, we can
Well,
assume
no.
if MJ gave her the personal request to
Right.
go and look at these bodies, that she said Kindred is Harry. So if she sees Harry, that's a big shock to her, and
Well-
she would probably want to call Mary Jane right away.
The
She can't
other
call the
thing-
police.
Yeah.
Adam says, what if it's Norman Osborn from ASM 122 or
Oh, that'd be
121, he
great.
writes. And Norman, after the 90s, was a clone. Ooh, JR, take it.
I was about to say, you talk about
That'll piss
throwing
you off.
lighter fluid on all those boxes over there and
Mhm.
setting it on fire.
I
Really?
mean,
that
but
would piss
that-
you off that bad?
But that could make sense about the fact that he didn't get his sin back.
Mhm.
Ooh, if he's a clone because he doesn't have a soul.
That's right.
Yeah.
JR,
Oh, by
would that make you quit?
Sorry.
That'd be pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
By the way,
Right.
if you notice what is interesting about this is that when Kindred is shown in that Dark Force thing, he only has one of those centipedes on.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like basically. So I'm thinking Carly's not dead, but I think she is either now become Kindred's outside person on the outside now, basically possessed now, or she could have been a sleeper agent of his from way back since 545.
Nah.
Mhm.
Well, think about it. Remember, if you go back to that dream of that Peter had of that flashback into 545, they were deliberately kind of showing that the fact they showed that Harry and Carly and Lily were coming in together, and almost like that in other words he was if I'm thinking right, that Harry was brought back as a means of ensuring that the Mephisto deal stayed intact. That meant that he had to bring somebody along, and who better to do that to keep trying to Peter and MJ apart than another potential love interest that he could use. as a
Mario,
Yeah,
wants
but-
to know, what if it's the Aunt May from ASM 400? We
Yeah.
couldn't tell if she's decomposed or not. That's what she looks like. Let's see.
Now, Brad, we had some discussion. Aqua on the front page, he said that he thought when Kindred said, "I'm right where I want to be," what he really meant was he's in the morgue.
Mhm.
oh,
and
he
so,
wants to die?
Mm.
yeah.
That's a good.
The,
that's a
the,
good
the
one.
only thing that kind of made us question it was right after he says that he smiles while he's in the Dark Force, but he's Kindred. He could be in two different places.
Yeah.
Or I was just thinking as we were going through it, if he used Spot to make the Dark Force bubble, and if Dark Force is inside of Kindred, because we know Kindred can hop around and teleport, which is how Cloak teleports, right? And use Dark Force.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then it's quite possible that Dark Force does nothing to hold Kindred, so he's just kind of like whatever, you know.
Hornacek in chat says it's Sissy Ironwood. Damn it! I missed a comment earlier. I can't find it now because the comments are flying in. Someone asked what I thought of Spot being used in the issue, and I've said it before on the show. I think Spot is an underused villain. I think he
Oh, absolutely.
has the potential to be very cool. And I like that Spencer used Spot in here.
Yeah, technically he should be far more dangerous than he actually
He should.
is.
He should.
Because-
So Adam says, Jesus, it could be anybody who ever died in the book.
Yeah, but I mean, but again, Harry's the one that kind of fits, I think, in on the line.
But why does Carly call MJ for Harry? Wouldn't it make more sense if she called him for Peter?
Well, she did say that she had been asked to do this special task, and I feel like she was asked by MJ, so that's who she's calling.
Mm-hmm. Because remember, MJ did ask the question, why would Kindred be Harry? We've seen Harry. He's fine. He's with Liz. He's, why would he be doing this now? So that's kind of a point. Yeah.
So we know it's somebody that Carly would recognize, and we know it's somebody that should not be there. So we, it's definitely, it's not somebody that's the standard fare of who we would expect Kendrick to have dug up.
When we do pros, which I think we are now, the pros is I like the debate that we're having, that we all give a damn. We're not. This issue has intrigued us. Granted, it stretches and it's going on longer than I think it should, but we legitimately all care who the hell's in the body bag.
Oh yeah.
So Mark, what other pros do you have since you're reviewing the book? You gave it an A, I think, right?
Yeah, I gave it an A. I love the whole thing of it. I mean, I love this whole, who's in the bag. I love the idea that if Carly's in danger, we're going to get Overdrive and his own little special, OD issues coming up later, where he's going to be going after her. I love Spot being he was last issue, but to me, I'm loving everything that's going on. With how this is playing out. I mean, it's playing out slowly, but I'm in here for the long haul anyway. So if I'm paying $4 and I'm getting a story that I can predict or not that I can predict, that I can have fun trying to predict, and it's generating conversation on the front page, and this is exciting. I'll pay $4 for that. All year long if I'm getting that, and still not get the final issue of this Kindred thing.
I think,
but at my age, enjoyable. I can't wait that long. I'm not in it for the long game. I'm only in it for the short to intermediate game.
I like what Hornacek says. He says Spencer definitely listens to the podcast, so he used Spot because he knows Brad likes him. And Adam says Hornacek, Spencer also told Marvel to have the books have good covers, so Brad would give them higher ratings. That was pretty cute.
The other thing I think, what I also like here, and I think it's how Peter is affected by this, what happened, because he has got to the point where he says, I am sick and tired of having to basically, help Harry. He says it's not my responsibility anymore. That it's at some point you got to take responsibility for yourself. Ironically, if this is have something to do with One More Day, then technically this might be Peter's fault about what's happening to Harry. So that's what's interesting about this. But I do like the fact that that Peter kind of, toughened up here and basically just said, no, look, I'm done with all this crazy. And I do like the idea that he said, I don't have the page in front of me, but when he says to Norm, he says, there is the two, essentially, there is, you and your son do have something in common. You keep blaming me for your own problems.
Yeah.
Which I thought, yep, that's pretty much, that's pretty much it. And so it's like, in a way, although, beating up a guy who's kind of an old, man at this point, it's kind of like harsh, but at the same time, I did like that, showing that.
I'm glad that when he's saying that about, you guys need to take care of your own issues, that he doesn't go into this, I can't be with Mary Jane because every time I'm with somebody, I just cause them pain and problems. I mean, that's what we would have gotten if this was a CW show. And I'm hoping Spencer's not going to end up going in that direction.
Yeah. Matthew says, I'm confused as to how everyone seems to know Peter's identity now. How do Harry and Norman know it again? Did Fisk see him unmasked? Help me out.
No,
so Fisk
didn't see him
not.
unmasked.
Yeah, Fisk doesn't know.
Norman knows because Jonah slipped and gave it away in like issue 798 or 799 when he said, you threw his girl off a bridge, and that got Norman thinking. Obviously, Harry something's going on with Harry. I mean, if he's from the dead or whatever. So but the Spider Buddies have I don't know how the hell they found out.
The Order of the Fries. Get it right.
From the Spider-Verse. Why wouldn't they know from Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse.
Different versions of the guy. I mean, Cindy would know. Cindy knows. Gwen knows. Miles knows. Jessica Drew would know because they were teammates on the Avengers. Then you got. I don't know if that's Ariana. Is that Ariana? That's Corazon.
Aranya or Anya.
Aranya, yeah.
Spider Girl, but
that's the only one. That's the only one I'm kind of debating on because I don't know. But then again, she was part of Spider-Verse too, and of course,
she
would know.
Thank you again, Venkman. That's awesome.
Yeah,
He has a question. I recall Tombstone snapping the Spot's neck in Tangled Web. How is the Spot alive again? My memory of the Brand New Day era is a little rusty. That or mentally blind.
Good, yeah.
Tangled Web is just kind of out there. It's out there. Maybe it's in continuity, maybe it's not, but it's out there.
If I remember correctly, in Brand New Day, he was in one of the first few issues. It probably would be addressed in there, if I remember correctly. But
no,
I mean,
Brand New.
I think Van Lente wrote that Spot issue where Spot became like an assassin or something, and they tried to make him cool, and
he's still cool. He just needs some good writing.
Well, he's definitely should be more. Like I said, I agree. He definitely should be more dangerous given his power set.
Isn't he the perfect cloak villain? Cloak and dagger villain. I mean,
right. I think it's just. I think the thing is maybe. I think the reason why they kind of figured that Spot was just kind of like, because he looks stupid with all those little spots all over him. But at the same time, it's like the guy does have the ability to literally create portholes in virtually anywhere and can cut them off every time. I mean, he should be way.
Yeah, he's
but again, he's one of the better bad villains this month.
Have we? I mixed my pros and my cons up. What haven't we talked about with this issue? I didn't particularly care for it.
I think it's because of that one. I think probably that whole thing with the Order of the Spiders. That whole scene
wasted, yeah.
And you're just like thinking, and then of course Spider-Gwen's whole thing was like, you owe us some answers, and it's like, well, you're the ones who kind of butt yourself into this, and it almost became like a voice for the reader, like because some readers are like, we demand answers now, and then others are like, well, yes, we deserve answers, but maybe later. And it's like
it would have been great if it ended with Mary Jane telling them that they can all go away. But we end up getting that extra page of them all going, well, maybe we should call ourselves the Order now. Yeah.
I really agree with what Adam's saying at this point. ASM Volume 5, 100. I think it's stretching, man. I really do.
Yeah. It's starting to feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just 100 issues is a bit much. And plus you throw in the who's and the who's and the laws. Whers. I mean, that's
as long as they're good like this, I'll take it.
And here's my other question. Where's Doctor Strange? Is he still in the astral plane fighting those demons?
He got the hell out of there. He's like, I'm not hanging out with these losers.
He needed their help after all. So he was all, get out of here. I don't need your help to fight this demon Mary Jane. Well, yeah, I guess he should have, huh?
He's still stuck there, apparently. He's still
he's waiting for a few months. He's waiting for a few months before the release of Spider-Man 3 so that,
He's off writing checks to Tobey Maguire to be in the movie. That's where.
Yep.
There was something that Spider-Man said to Norman, and I don't know if because Peter's acting I think there's been some debate as to whether or not Peter's all right in the head as well. But Peter makes a comment when he tells Norman that Harry wasn't always the best friend. And I hope that there's a little meaning behind that, and Spencer just didn't write it like Peter really mean. I mean, because let's talk about who wasn't a really good friend. It was Peter Parker. I mean, we all know why Peter is Spider-Man, of course, and we all know why Peter's driven to be Spider-Man. But also, Spider-Man kind of, in a way, Peter's a bit narcissistic, self-indulgent, self-pitying. Spider-Man kind of sometimes is his crutch for when he can't deal with things. And Harry, it's one of those things. It was almost a wasted opportunity where I would, if I were writing, which I'm not a writer, and I'm not one. I couldn't do this. There's no way I'm saying, oh, I could write this better. But to me, this would have been a perfect opportunity for Norman to say, oh, you want to know who was a lousy friend? Back when I was halfway thinking straight, I'd let you live with my son because I thought, oh, my son needs a friend. My son needs a smart kid who can help him in school and who could stable and blah, 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 blah. You're the one who failed here, bud, because you had to always go out and play superhero. My son was falling apart and you didn't seem to notice or care, so there was that, I don't know if, to me, that's a sin that ought to come around back to Peter too, is that he wasn't always the best friend either. And he's, there is a certain, Kindred was right. There is a certain amount of hubris to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Right. Now we lost Kelly. In about 10 minutes, we're going to start our Spider News show. There's Kelly. Here she comes. There, we lost you.
Oh,
can you hear us, Kelly?
Yeah.
Hey, I made
sorry.
it to the top row.
Okay.
Hey.
No, no, no.
Yeah. No,
yeah, it's like
my
a Brady
internet just
Bunch thing.
There you go,
Yeah.
Mark.
Oh, well, thanks.
And everything was all right with the war.
Yes.
Let's do some final thoughts. We're going to do a little break in between the shows. Thank you to everybody who's watching. This is nice, really nice numbers tonight.
Yeah.
So let's
And
go around.
Vinkman for opening his checkbook.
Oh, Vinkman with the super chat. Thank you very much, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go around the horn. Dark Mark, final thoughts on this episode.
Look, these comics right now that are coming out are driving so much speculation and comments on the front page. I am loving this. This is perfect. This is so much better than when you wrote me in on Amazing Grace way back when.
God.
Yeah, I would much rather be writing reviews about these stories that I'm loving than to write another slot review where I'm like, well, just same thing I've been complaining about.
Yeah.
Oh,
If they can only get an artist who's not phoning it in, would be great.
Stop with the Bagley. I met him. He's a nice dude. Also, Josh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Did you like Bagley before these issues?
Bagley, I told you before, Bagley's fine. It's just these issues, he's not giving us his best work. And this
I think the colorist think
time
screwing him up. I don't think Bagley's changed that much.
Well, who's doing the inking on this?
I don't know, but
yeah, because that could be part of it too. Because
it
that's
could
always
be, but his faces are always just off. Like when Martin Lee last issue, Martin Lee's there. We had to have Aunt May go, "Oh, it's Martin Lee," because we're looking at going, "I don't know who this guy is."
Yeah.
There's too much of that. I should be able to recognize the main characters in the book.
I would agree that his Harry and Norman are a bit off. I will.
Yeah, very much so.
Kelly, final thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying the story still. I still think that Spencer is a very talented writer, and I like where he's trying to go. I just wish that there was a little bit more streamlining with editorial slightly. Just because I do kind of feel like things now are just branches hanging, and after all of the slot stuff like that, I'm just a little burned by it, and I'm like, please let's finish a plot out before we go to the next one in something, because I'm afraid he is never going to catch up. But that's just kind of my main concern right now. But I'm enjoying the ride, and I like that.
I like the ride too. Yeah. Gary wants to know, JR, are we ever going to do a Child Within Spider history?
Yes, we will.
Oh, that'd be good.
It's just a matter of lining up the month. I got to go back and see what month it appeared in, so that I can make sure because I've got 2 I want to do this year. I do want to do The Child Within, and I want to do Maximum Garbage.
Oh, Maximum Carnage Spider history. That sounds like, I think that started in March or May or something like that.
It went on forever. That's all I know.
Let's see. Man, you guys are bashing Bagley. No, Mark.
No, just me.
Just Mark.
Just
Mark is the one bashing him. I mean, I dig Bagley.
Yeah, it says, I know you don't like the 90s cartoon much, Brad, but I thought they did a good job making Spot funny, dangerous, and sympathetic. Check it out again if you get a chance. Yeah, it's up on Disney Plus. I guess I could.
Yep.
but I got Spider Friends to watch before that.
That's
I'm going to go back and look at the old cartoons.
I tell you, I hate having Disney. I have Disney Plus.
Why?
I hate that you can go back in and find and see what other people are watching. because Spencer came to me. He came in.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to watch Mandalorian or whatever, and he came. I'm sorry, I'm wasting a minute or whatever, but he came in and said, "Hey, look at this. Dad's been watching the Spider-Man cartoons. Look, Triumph for the Green Goblin and Return of the Green Goblin, Dad." So it's
I swear.
Welcome
Yeah.
back.
I
The
know.
internet-
I don't. Did I? Was I even heard at all? Because
Yeah,
the
we
moment
heard
Probably
you.
not.
We heard
Okay.
you.
No.
All right. Moment I started talking, it's like
It's all
the
good.
internet decided to be horrible.
Welcome
Okay,
to my world. Yeah.
Mike, final thoughts?
Yeah, even though I was kind of joking a little bit about comparing this story to J.J. Abrams' Mystery Box, that is kind of what it feels like at this point. I
Oh,
mean,
man.
yeah, it starts off great, but the whole problem, it's also kind of high. I mean, it is keeping us interested. I mean, we are
It
kind of
is.
intrigued. Like,
We
what-
care.
We as frustrated as I got from some of these things, I do want to know
Mhm.
what happens next. And the problem, I think, is sometimes that you can't keep having keep opening a box and having another box inside and open that one
I would agree.
like a Minushka dolls or something.
Sure
At
you
some point, well, yeah, you probably could. But at some point, you got to start kind of having to start wrapping up together rather than piling one mystery on top of another. And I think that's kind of it's starting to get a little bit dragged on, especially with that line says where literally almost like the Spencer's speaking through Jessica Drew, this is not over, it's only the beginning. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
At some point, you gotta wrap it up, Spencer. I mean, as
Yeah.
good as it is, I mean, get on with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, agreed. And very much padded to issue 100. I mean, I
Oh
I
yeah,
think
you're
it's
feeling
almost
it.
a sure thing. JR, final thoughts.
Well, I will say that this batch of issues, not counting the lure issue, this batch was better and more fun to talk about than some of the previous batches we've had, on this show.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I just hope we're going somewhere.
Right.
So-
Yeah. We're going to
is
issue
going
100.
on?
That's where we're
This will
going. All right, we will be back in just a few minutes. We've got Spider News. We're going to talk about that god awful Spider costume.
Oh
We got
gosh.
Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield possibly coming back. Spider-Man fights Santa. We got some weird topics.
You're gonna let me rant about the 616 documentary episode.
Dan Slott's
Oh, that
documentary
was a
issue.
treat. That was a
I'm-
treat.
Kelly
I'm
also
excited.
has a Spider-Man and a dating app story.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't want to miss that. We will be back in just a little bit. Go to our YouTube channel. You will be notified when we're going to be on the air in just about 5 minutes or so. Okay. Before we go, I want to thank our Patreon members for supporting us each and every month. So here we're going out, gang. See you in just a little bit.